Very good morning, dear children. Today we are going to see the 13th lesson in your 8th standard, water. Before we start our lesson, let's say our prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. We have a Tirukural. நீர் இன்றி அமையாது உலகு யார் யாருக்கும் வானின்றி அமையாது ஒழுக்கு. So this Tirukural says, without water there would be no life on the earth. We need water for so many activities like cooking, washing, cleaning and irrigation, etc. Water resources are getting depleted nowadays because of growing demand for increasing population and lifestyle changes. There is also a reduction in the supply of water due to pollution of water sources and climate change, which contribute to the rising variability in rainfall. In this lesson, we will learn about the sources, properties and uses of water, and also about water pollution and water treatment methods. Composition: 3/4 of our plant earth is filled with water. Water exists in 3 states, namely solid, liquid and gases. Water on the surface of the earth is found mainly in ocean. 97.25% of water is in ocean. Polar ice caps and glaciers contributes 2.05% of water, and the remaining is in lakes and river and aquifers, groundwaters, etc. Even our body is made up of water. 65% of our body is made up of water, but it is not apparent. Water is a chemically stable compound. Its chemical name is dihydrogen monoxide, H2O. It can be broken up to hydrogen H2 and oxygen O2 when an electrical current is passed through it. The process of breaking down of water molecule by the passage of electric current is known as electrolysis of water. Now we are going to see that electrolysis of water. Electrolysis of water can be easily demonstrated with the help of an experiment. In this experiment setup, a glass beaker, a fixer with 2 carbon electrodes is filled with water up to 1/3 of its volume. The positive carbon electrode acts as anode and the negative carbon electrode acts as a cathode. 2 test tubes are placed on the electrode as shown in the figure. The electrodes are connected to a battery and current is passed until the test tubes are filled with a particular gas. If the gas collected is tested using a burning splint, we can notice that the gas in cathode side burns with a popping sound when the extinguished splint is brought near the mouth of the test tube. This property is usually shown by hydrogen gas popping sound. Okay, with the popping sound, the candle or any burning thing will be exhaust. That is the nature of hydrogen. Okay, confirmed that the gas inside the test tube is hydrogen. The burning splint placed near the anode side burns. Anode side means it burns more brightly, confirming that it is oxygen gas, because oxygen always helps burning. This experiment shows the water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. The ratio of hydrogen and oxygen is 2:1. 2H2O in the presence of electrolysis, 2H2 plus O2, both are gaseous state. This is the equation of hydrolysis of water. Next we need to see about preparation of water. Water was first prepared in 1781 by an English scientist, Henry Cavendish. He discovered the hydrogen gas when active metals reacts with sulfuric acid. The hydrogen gas released was highly inflammable and burned to form a colorless product called water. Zinc plus H2SO4 gives zinc SO4 plus H2O. Then this 2H2 plus O2 gives 2H2O. Water is also produced by the reduction of metal oxide by hydrogen, burning of hydrogen in air and burning of hydrocarbons in air. Respiration of plants and animals also release water. Equation C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. How the water be prepared in laboratory? The apparatus used for this preparation of water in the laboratory is shown in the figure 13.2. This is the figure showing the laboratory preparation of water. In this method, pure hydrogen gas is passed through anhydrous calcium chloride to absorb water vapor if present. Dry hydrogen coming out of the opening is burnt with sufficient supply of air. The burnt hydrogen gas formed droplets of water when it comes in contact with the cold flask. Distilled water without any dissolved matter is obtained by this method. We are going to see the properties of water. First, initially we will see the physical property. Its nature: pure water is clear and transparent liquid. It is colorless, odorless and tasteless. Boiling point: the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius at 1 atmospheric pressure. At this temperature, water boils and changes into steam. The boiling point of water increases with increase in the pressure. If the pressure increases, the boiling point also increases. Next, freezing point. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius and forms ice. Thus, the freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius. The freezing point of water decreases with increase in the pressure. Freezing point also decreases. Here, boiling point increases, freezing point decreases with increase in the pressure. Next, the density. When ice cube are put in a glass of water at room temperature, they float on the surface of the water. This is because ice is lighter than water. It means that the density of ice is lower than that of water. When the winter temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius, the water in the lake will start freezing. The frozen ice will float at the top of the top and cover the lake. Since ice is a bad conductor of heat, it does not allow heat to pass through it. So the water below the ice remains in liquid form, where most of the aquatic life lives. This enables the aquatic animals and plants to survive even in extreme cold condition. Okay. The table shows you the temperature variation and the density. Anomalous expansion of water. It is a very beautiful process of water. For the same mass of ice and of water, the volume of the ice is more than that of water. It is an unusual physical property of water. In the Himalayas, the temperature can go down even below 0 degrees Celsius. The water in the water pipe will freeze at this temperature to ice. If the pipe are not strong, they can crack, develop leaks or even burst. This is because freezing of water will cause an expansion of its volume. This is the anomalous expansion. Expansion of volume in the solid state. Anomalous expansion of water. Next, we are going to see the latent heat of fusion of ice. Take some ice cubes in a beaker and place a thermometer in it. Now heat the beaker. The thermometer will not register any rise in the temperature till all the ice melts, even you continuously give the heating energy. The question arises, where does the heat energy go if there is no rise in temperature? The heat energy is utilized in changing the state of ice from solid to liquid. The amount of heat energy required by the ice to change ice into water is called latent heat of fusion of ice. Ice has the highest latent heat of fusion, that is 80 calories per gram or 336 joules per gram. Latent heat of vaporization of water. When water attains the temperature of 100 degrees Celsius, it starts changing its state from liquid to gaseous state. However, the temperature of water does not rise above 100 degrees Celsius. It is because the supplied heat energy only changes the state of the boiling water. This heat energy is stored in steam and is commonly called latent heat of vaporization of steam. The steam has the highest latent heat of vaporization and its value is 540 calories per gram or 2268 joules per gram. Next, we are going to see the specific heat capacity. It's a very important property of water. The amount of heat that is needed to raise the temperature of a unit mass of a substance by 1 degree Celsius is called specific heat capacity of that substance. The specific heat capacity of water is very high. 1 gram of water required 1 calorie of heat to rise its temperature by 1 degree Celsius. Due to its high specific heat capacity, water takes time to become hot as well as to cool down. Thus, water can absorb a lot of heat and retain it for a longer time. This property of water is used to cool engines. Water is circulated around car engine using the radiator pump and the heat is absorbed. Thus, the engine is protected from getting too hot. Up to this, we finished the physical property of water. Next, we need to see the chemical properties of water. First one, action towards litmus paper. Pure water is neutral and it shows no action towards litmus paper. Next, stability. Water is a very stable compound. It does not decompose into elements when heated to ordinary temperature. However, if it is heated to 200 degrees Celsius, that is 0.02 percentage of water decomposes to form hydrogen and oxygen gas. So 2H2O at 2000 degrees Celsius gives 2H2 plus O2. Catalytic nature. Water acts as a catalyst in a number of reactions. Perfectly dry hydrogen and chlorine gases do not react in the presence of sunlight. However, in the presence of traces of water, the reaction takes place with explosion to produce hydrogen chloride. H2 plus Cl2 in the presence of moisture and sunlight produces 2HCl. HCl is nothing but hydrochloric, it is an acid. Next, we are going to see reaction of water with metal. Water reacts with some metal. Metals such as sodium, potassium and calcium reacts vigorously with water at room temperature. Sodium reacts with water to form hydrogen gas and sodium hydroxide solution. Due to the heat evolved in this reaction, the hydrogen gas catches the fire and burns. 2Na plus H2O gives 2NaOH plus H2. Next, with magnesium. Magnesium is light, more sluggish. It reacts with the hot water and gives hydrogen and magnesium hydroxide solution. So, magnesium hydroxide is MgOH twice. Many other metals react with water to form oxides and hydroxides. Iron is one such metal which form iron oxide called rust. Iron is used in many buildings, factories, bridges, ships and vehicles. The slow and gradual rusting of iron is called corrosion. Copper do not react with water at any temperature. That is why it is used for making pipes and boilers. Next, we are going to see the chemical property of water with non-metals. Red hot carbon, that is coke, reacts with steam to produce water gas, carbon monoxide plus H2. CO is carbon monoxide. Chlorine gas dissolves in water and produces hydrochloric acid. HCl is hydrochloric acid. It is to produce chlorine gas reacts with water and produce HCl. Next, we are going to see the common property, water, a universal solvent. A solvent is nothing but a substance which dissolves other substance, that is the name of the other substance is solute, to produce a solution. Water has a unique property to dissolve more substances than any other solvent. It can dissolve solids such as salt and sugar, liquids such as honey and milk, and gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide in it. Therefore, it is called as universal solvent. Okay, you can see a number of next we are going to see why the universal solvent is required. They are essential for the growth and development of plants. They add taste to water. They supply the salts present in the water. These 4 points talks about the uses of salts present in the water. They are essential for the growth and development of the plants. They add taste to the water. They supply the essential minerals needed for our body. Most of the chemical reactions important for our living takes place in the cells of our body with the help of water. Apart from solids and minerals, air is also dissolved in water. Some solids and minerals are dissolved in water. Apart from that, some air is also dissolved in water. Air is present in dissolved state in all natural sources of water. The solubility of oxygen in water is higher than the solubility of nitrogen. Air dissolved in water contains approximately 35.6% oxygen along with nitrogen and carbon dioxide. That's why Abhay Patti said, Sani neer adu, kulinda neeril kuli. rich oxygen will be available in water in cold condition. Okay, air being dissolved in water is important for the following reason. Air dissolved in water is important for the living organisms to survive. Fish extracts the oxygen from the water and expels water through the gills. Fish can survive in water only through the dissolved oxygen present in the water. Aquatic plants make use of dissolved carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide dissolved in water reacts with limestone to form calcium bicarbonate, that is the milky white color solution. Marine organisms such as snails, oyster, etc. extract calcium carbonate from calcium bicarbonate to build their shells. Next, we are going to the practical uses of water, that is potable water. A lot of water available around earth, but some are potable, some are not potable. So let's see the difference. Imagine you are swimming in the sea and by accident you swallow some sea water. How would you feel? You would probably feel like vomiting. The sensation of feeling nauseous is because of a lot of salt in the water. Every liter of seawater contains 35 grams of dissolved salt, most commonly known as sodium chloride, NaCl. Such water is called saline water. It is not suitable for drinking and is said to be non-potable water. The water suitable for drinking is called potable water. Every liter of potable water contains 1 to 2 grams of dissolved salts, mainly common salt. In addition to the common salt, there are some amount of calcium, magnesium, potassium, copper and zinc. Depending upon the places, the salt may vary. The minerals in water give it a certain taste. In addition, these minerals are useful for our body's metabolism. Potable water also contains dissolved gases. Characteristics of potable water. First one, potable water should be colorless and odorless. It should be transparent. It should be free from harmful microorganisms such as bacteria, virus and protozoa fungi. It should be free from impurities such as suspendable solids. It should contain some minerals and solids necessary for our body and some dissolved gases to add taste. How can we purify water? Because water is not available in a purified potable form everywhere. Out of the total fresh water available on the earth, only 1% is present in water bodies such as river and lakes, and the rest is frozen in glaciers and polar region. Water from these water bodies is unfit for drinking, cooking, washing and bathing because it contains suspended and dissolved impurities. It also contains microorganisms such as bacteria. If this water is consumed without purifying, it can cause waterborne diseases such as typhoid and cholera. Therefore, water should be treated and purified before it reached our home. What are the purification techniques? First one is sedimentation. The figure 13.6 show you the process. Let's see that. What is sedimentation? Water from lakes or rivers is collected in large sedimentation tanks. There, it is allowed to stand undisturbed so that suspended impurities settle down at the bottom of the tank. Sometimes a chemical substance such as potash alum is added to water to speed up the process of sedimentation. This process is called loading. Second step is filtration. Water from the sedimented tank is then pumped to the filtration tank. Filtration tanks contain filter beds made up of gravel, sand, pebbles, activated charcoals and concrete. Water passes through these layers and becomes free from any remaining dissolved or suspended impurities completely. The third process is sterilization. The filtered water is treated chemically to remove the remaining germs or bacteria. This process is called sterilization. The chemicals that are used in this process are chlorine and ozone. The water from filtration tanks is pumped into chlorination tanks, where chlorine is added to remove harmful bacteria and other germs. The process of adding chlorine in adequate amount to water is called chlorination. Ozonation is a process in which water is treated with ozone gas to kill the germs present in it. The sterilization of water can also be done by exposing it to air and sunlight. Oxygen from the air and sunlight destroy the germs present in the water. Aeration is the process in which air under pressure is blown into filtered water. This also helps to kill germs. So these are all the different steps to purify water. Next we need to see hardness of water, because in our bore we get some hard water. What are the difference between hardness and softness of water? We use soaps and detergent to wash clothes. They form lather with water and that quickens the process of removal of dirt from the clothes. Water contains a number of dissolved salt and minerals. When these salts are present in very small quantities in water, it is called soft water. In this water, soaps or detergents form lather easily. Sometimes minerals and salts are present Sometimes minerals and salts are present in water in such a large quantity that soaps or detergent form a thick precipitate called scum instead of forming lather. This makes the removal of dirt further difficult. Such water is called hard water. Hardness of water is due to the presence of dissolved salt of calcium and magnesium. Hardness may be temporary or permanent. Temporary hardness is due to the presence of carbonate and bicarbonate salts of calcium and magnesium, and permanent hardness results due to the presence of chlorine, chloride and sulfide salt of calcium and magnesium. However, it is the salt of calcium and magnesium. What are the disadvantages of hard water? It is not good for washing clothes. It forms scum with soap and detergent, which makes the soap ineffective and also spoils the clothes further. It damages the utensils and containers in which it is stored and forms a hard layer. It forms scales on the machine parts used in industries and decreases their efficiency. It results in stomach ailments if consumed for a long period. Some stone problem may occur. How can we remove the hardness? So there are different processes given in your book. Boiling. Temporary hardness is easily removed from water by boiling. When heated, the when heated, the calcium hydrogen carbonate decomposes, producing insoluble calcium carbonate. The insoluble carbonates are then filtered and removed from water. This makes the hard water soft and fit for use. Adding water soda. Washing soda is used to remove permanent hardness of water. Adding washing soda converts chlorides and sulfates into insoluble carbonates. These insoluble carbonates are removed by filtration. Next, ion exchange. Another method used to remove the hardness of water is to pass it through a column of ion exchange resins where calcium and magnesium ions get replaced by sodium ions. This converts hard water into soft water. Distillation. Temporary and permanent hardness both can be removed by the method of distillation. The water obtained after distillation is called distilled water. It is the purest form of water. Next we are going to see the very important foremost topic, water pollution. Contamination of water bodies as a result of human activities is known as water pollution. Contamination of water bodies occurs when harmful substances such as chemical, sewage and waste are released into them. It produces physical and chemical and biological changes in the quality of water. It regards the water quality and renders it toxic to living organism. Drinking polluted water has serious negative effects on human health. Water resources in Tamil Nadu has been given to you. You go through the water resources of Tamil Nadu. It will give you a wide knowledge about it. Sources of water pollution. There are many different sources of water pollution. First one is household detergent. Household and cleaning detergents are a major cause of water pollution. Synthetic detergents have chemicals that do not break down and can end up polluting both surface and groundwater. So excess use of these detergent adversely affects fish and other organisms. So we should be very conscious about these uses. Next, domestic sewages. Wastewater that is disposed of from households is known as domestic sewage. So domestic sewages should be treated before being disposed into water bodies like river, lake, etc. But it is not done properly. Domestic waste, plastics. Solid water, solid waste including plastics are disposed of or end up in the water bodies such as lakes, rivers and oceans. Plastic block drain spreading vector borne diseases such as malaria and dengue. Waste in water bodies negatively impact aquatic life. It is a very serious issue. Agricultural activity. Fertilizer, pesticides and insecticides used in agriculture can dissolve in rainwater and flow into water bodies such as river and lake. This causes an excess of nutrients such as nitrates and phosphates as well as toxic chemicals in water bodies. It is called eutrophication. These substances can also be harmful to aquatic life. Next, industrial wastes. It is a very harmful thing. It is not controlled by the government. Many industries release toxic waste such as lead, mercury, cyanides, cadmium, etc. If this waste is unregulated and is released into water bodies, it has huge impact on human, plant and animal and aquatic life. Oil spills. It is also a very huge problem for the oceans. There are large crude oil and natural gas reserves below the seabed. With the increasing exploration of crude oil in the ocean, accidents in drilling and transporting oil have also increased. Oil spill cause water pollution which is harmful to aquatic life. Thermal pollution. Large amount of water is used for cooling purposes in thermal and nuclear power plant and many industries. Water used for cooling purposes is discharged back to river or to original water sources at a raised temperature and sometimes with chemicals. This causes rise in temperature and decreases the amount of oxygen dissolved in water, which adversely affect the aquatic life. Some common pollutants has been given in table. 13.1 types of pollution has been given to you. You go through it, it will give you a wide knowledge. Then controlling water pollution. Water is precious and it is essential for all living organism. So how to control the water pollution? Use detergents that are biodegradable and avoid those that contain toxic chemicals. Wear clothes that is made from natural fibers such as cotton and avoid wearing synthetic fibers such as nylon, polyester, etc. Do not throw waste such as plastic into water bodies. Always separate waste into recyclable and non-recyclable and biodegradable so that it does not cause pollution. Domestic wastewater should be treated properly and all harmful substances should be removed from it so it can be reused from flushing toilets and gardening. Use biopesticides, that is natural pest control instead of chemical pest controls. Use compost made from cow dung, garden waste and kitchen waste as a fertilizer. Water released from industry should be treated before being discharged or recycled for industrial purposes. These are all given in your lesson water. I hope you all understand. All the best. Thank you, girls.